Hello and welcome to Entertainment News Break, your source for what's hot this week in TV and movies.
We give you the latest and anticipated series, blockbusters, and streaming services. We confirm what you've heard about what's coming up in the world of entertainment. We're your hosts. I'm Lindsay. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Brandon. And this week we'll be discussing some of your favorites at Netflix and Amazon, along with a surprise coming to Hulu. Netflix continues to keep their fan base with their original series, and next week, fans of the service can be excited to see the premiere of Season 3 of the famous Hemlock Grove. The show takes place in Hemlock Grove, Pennsylvania, where a small town is met with horror after two young girls are found dead. Secretly, a teenage boy named Peter Rumrick, played by Landon Ryan, is a werewolf who has been accused of these terrorizing acts.
In Season 2, more drama went down as a cult had risen and seeks to destroy all supernatural beings in Hemlock Grove. This means trouble for Peter, and not only that, but his hunger to kill has taken over as well. The premiere of Season 3 is known to be the final chapter in which Peter and Romans have to prevent the end of days by letting their inner monsters out and dealing with all sorts of enemies along the way. Let's take a short look at the trailer. This upcoming season of Hemlock Grove is filled with even more horror and thrill than the previous seasons. Don't forget to check it out on Netflix on October 23rd.
More news on Netflix. Netflix has recently decided to once again raise its price for subscribers by $1 starting next year for current subscribers and last month for new subscribers. If you remember, just last year, Netflix also raised its costs by $1 from $7.99 to $8.99. Now it will be raised to $9.99 per month. However, this hasn't stopped Netflix from growing. The company continues to grow and is soon heading into its fourth quarter headstrong.
Now for some news in Hulu. Last week it was announced that actor Kal Penn, who played in Harold and Kumar, will be starring in the third season of Hulu's original series, Deadbeat. Deadbeat takes place in New York City and follows the life of a medium, Kevin, who is played by Tyler Labine, as he helps the dead of New York rest in peace. Penn is said to star as a stoner entrepreneur who helps Kevin with his business. The third season of Deadbeat is set to premiere sometime in the spring of 2016. Keep a lookout and don't miss it.
On October 9th, Amazon Prime released the rest of the first season of its original series, Red Oaks, to viewers. The pilot episode aired on August 18th, 2014, and Amazon has finally released the remaining 9 episodes to its viewers. Let's take a look at the trailer for Red Oaks.
Red Oaks is a comedy series placed in the 80s that follows college student David as he spends his summer working at Red Oaks Country Club. The show's already earned a 7.4 on IMDb and an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. If you haven't already, catch up on the hilarity that Red Oaks brings to the television. So do you think this is going to be a successful comedy? We've already seen really successful comedies that have taken place in the new millennium that were set in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like that 70s show went on for like 10 seasons. Do you think this one will be really successful as well?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of live in a society now that loves throwbacks. So, yeah, especially 80s now with, all these different movies of these old cartoons and shows. I think it will probably do really well, and the 80s is kind of one of my favorite decades, so I think so. Do you think there's going to be plenty of neon in the show? Plenty of...
I hope so. I hope there's a lot of hairspray, a lot of 80s music. I'm looking forward to that. The only thing I'm really concerned about is like if you get into the late 80s, early 90s, there's a lot of cheesiness that can come in between those kind of comedies. And yeah. I hope that this is a good mix of like old time like comedy and like new comedy, not too inappropriate like nowadays, but not too cheesy. I'm hoping for a good like family comedy because it's a good like setup for a show, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's good when a show puts limits on itself, like taking out certain content that other shows like like on HBO can get away with just because of what they're stationed on, they can do what they want. But the idea of a show that maybe might be on a streaming service but chooses by itself to put limits on itself forces the writers to be more creative, to try to work around that content. And I think that could really work out. I mean, if it's in the 80s, that was the huge boom of malls. So you could talk about that culture compared to how malls are kind of portrayed nowadays in media.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a pretty good show and very different from what we've seen, so I'm definitely gonna check it out. So up next, we have Taya Caps with this week's box office top 10. And when we come back, Brendan and I will be discussing your favorite shows coming up this week on television. Don't miss it.
This week, we have another great selection of films that were a hit in the box office. I'm your host, Taya, for last weekend's top 10 box office hits. Starting off at number 10 at 2.42 million marks infamous director M. Night Shyamalan's return to his suspenseful roots with The Visit, starring child stars Olivia DeJonge and Ed Oxenbould. When a single mother goes on vacation and leaves her 2 children to spend a week with their grandparents, the two see this as an opportunity to get to know more about their family. However, the siblings soon discover a dark secret about their grandparents and learn that perhaps less is more. Working our way up the list, the 3.3 million ninth entry takes us on a journey to one of the highest points on Earth. It's Everest. This adventurous thriller, starring an ensemble that includes Josh Brolin, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Keira Knightley, bases itself on the real events of the 1996 Mount Everest disaster, following the survival of 2 expedition groups caught in a brutal blizzard. At 3.13 million, Johnny Depp once again proves his versatility as an actor in Black Mass at number 8. Based on the true story of infamous criminal Whitley Borger, this grimy crime drama, also starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Dakota Johnson, follows 2 childhood friends, one that becomes a major figure in the FBI and the other godfather of the Boston Irish mob. The 2 made a dirty deal to sabotage the mob, and naturally, things get bloody, fast. Number 7 comes from the acclaimed director of Forrest Gump and the Back to the Future trilogy, Robert Zemeckis. New film, The Wire, making 3.65 million this weekend, is based on the 1974 true story of French high wire artist Philippe Petit, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, that with the help of his mentor, Papa Rudy, Ben Kingsley, recruits a team to help him to realize his dream of tightrope walking across the World Trade Center towers in New York City. Number 6, making 5.25 million, is the second installment in the young adult sci-fi saga The Maze Runner, based on the ongoing book series by James Dashner. After escaping the aforementioned maze in the previous film, Thomas, Minho, Teresa, and the rest of the Gladers now face the greatest trial yet as they attempt to survive in a barren landscape known as the Scorch in Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials. As the tagline grimly states, the maze was just the beginning. Stay tuned for our top 5 weekend box office hits later in the show. For now, I'm Taya. See you after the break.
Welcome back to the show. This week in television, we're excited to discuss some new series and season premieres of your favorite shows. Last Monday, the CW premiered the new musical comedy, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. The show follows the life of Rebecca Bunch, played by Rachel Bloom, as she pursues her ex-boyfriend and beloved soulmate Josh, played by Vincent Rodriguez. Rebecca runs into Josh in New York, where he tells her of his plans to move to California, in which Rebecca also makes the decision to move to the same area in hopes to rebuild the love of the two once shared. Here's a look at the trailer.
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend has already won the hearts of many with high reviews. Critics on Metacritic rate the series with a score of 79, while the users see more potential at an 8.1. Rotten Tomatoes has also given the show a high score of 97%. We can only hope to see more comedy and drama from the show. Don't miss Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, every Monday on the CW.
Along with the premiere of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, television is capturing viewers' attention with some of their old favorites as well. Last Sunday, AMC premiered Season 6 of The Walking Dead. Fans have waited for months to see what would come out of the cliffhanger that Season 5 left us with. Let's take a short look at the trailer.
As you can see, Season 6 is centered around on the safe haven that Rick and the group have become a part of. Some fans seem to be disappointed with the outcome of the Season 6 premiere, however. They can expect the rest of the season to be jam-packed with more walkers and action than ever. We can see that from the trailer. Rick and the gang will do anything it takes to protect their sanctuary and the people inside of it. However, if you want to know more, you'll be able to tune into AMC every Sunday at 9 p.m. to watch.
To continue with more action-packed television series, this Monday, CBS will be premiering the pilot episode of the new series Supergirl. Supergirl is based off the DC comic and off the same name and follows 24-year-old Kara Zor-El, who is the cousin of Superman and one of the only surviving Kryptonians. Kara also has to learn how to embrace her powers rather than hide them, and use them to help save the citizens of National City and become the famous Supergirl that everyone learns to love. Let's take a look at the trailer. So Supergirl, what do you think about this? Have you read Supergirl comics? Are you excited about this series?
I haven't read the comics, but I know a little bit of the character, that she's from the same planet as Superman, except they were cousins and they were like separated. And whatever excuse to give the a female equivalent. But I think that's great because it allows the potential of this show to play against the comics. Whereas like the Wonder Woman comics written by a guy that had a lot of material in them that was very obviously directed at the male audience. And I think that, especially with Batman vs Superman and all these other shows coming out like this, it gives them a chance to rework these characters for a modern world, basically.
This is the first time I've really ever seen any TV promotion for Supergirl, so I'm pretty excited about that. I think she's going to be a lot more of a model for maybe young women rather than Wonder Woman. This is something I really hope maybe they don't sexualize this as much as Wonder Woman. We have that enough in comic book community and all that. But yeah, I'm really excited, and I was wondering maybe if there'd be any Superman references, maybe appearances and other superheroes. What do you think?
It's possible now that the show has access to DC like any other of the stuff in in that genre. So who knows? Batman could show up in this. Odd ones like the Submarine or Aquaman could pop in. You're right. Especially Superman. We could just have some. Who knows? Maybe Henry Cavill, who plays him in the Man of Steel, could pop in. There's a lot of possibilities, and that could really work out. I'm excited for it, yeah, because it's going to be updating this character for a modern audience. That's going to be allow her to be portrayed how they're going to change her personality. I'm sure in the original comics she was pretty much just a female Superman, but now they could make her more interesting, add more to her character.
I'm really picturing a really kick-butt female superhero icon that really does beats to her own drum, and I'm really looking forward to that. The CW is honestly really good with fiction in general, and people should give the channel definitely a lot more credit for a local channel. They have had some really successful shows. You look at especially Supernatural, who it's not about superheroes but fiction.
Yeah. The 100 is another one of their big hits that just took off recently.
Yeah, I have a lot of potential for this. People love superheroes. You can hardly ever go wrong with a superhero series, and especially since this new character, which we haven't really seen a lot and hasn't been portrayed, it's going to be really awesome. Just you had The Flash come out, and that was really successful, and it's still going on its second season, so I feel like there's going to be a lot of potential for the show.
Right, The Flash is on the CW too, right? So then they could just have those two cross over very easily.
Oh yeah, there should definitely be a crossover episode. Definitely they should date or something. No, they should definitely team up. I'm really looking forward to this. I hope there's some really cool villains, and DC always has really awesome villains that you kind of feel sorry for, but you hate at the same time.
Maybe this will be the first live-action interpretation of the character of Mxyzptlk, the strange guy that can twist reality. And that, hopefully their effects budget on TV would be able to handle that. But that would be a really interesting character just to mess with on a show like that. I believe he was also in the '90s show Lewis and Clark too. So, and if you're like me and you love strong women and superheroes, Supergirl's the show for you. As you can see, the series is full of action and suspense, so don't hesitate to tune into this series premiere of Supergirl this Monday on CBS. Up next, we have our host Taya with the rest of this week's top 10 box office hits. And after that, we'll be back to discuss new movies in theaters this week.
Welcome back to the top 10 weekend box office hits. I'm Taya, and now it's time for the top 5. Tensions rise in the war against drugs on the U.S. and Mexican border in Sicario, the fifth entry, which took $7.35 million this weekend. This action-packed crime drama stars Emily Blunt, stars as Kate Macer, an FBI agent that must work together with hitman Alejandro, played by Benicio del Toro, to thwart the drug cartel of Manuel Diaz. Experience Never Gets Old claims the $8.66 million, making fourth entry and first comedy of the list. The Intern, Robert De Niro plays Ben Whitaker, a 70-year-old widower that has grown bored of retirement and seeks to get back in the game. And thankfully, a fashion website managed by Jules Alston, played by Anne Hathaway, takes him on as a senior intern. Can Whitaker adapt to the modern world of business, and could his experience help Jules improve her own business? At number 3, Warner Brothers continues Disney's recent tradition with Maleficent and Cinderella of reimagining their original animated classics as live-action epics, with Pan, which opened this weekend to $15.3 million. This fantasy adventure acts as a prequel on the original Peter Pan story, following the 12-year-old Peter, played by Levi Miller, as he is whisked away to Neverland, where he teams up with Tiger Lily and Hook, Rooney Mara, and Garrett Holland to take on the cunning pirate Blackbeard. Just in time for All Hallows Eve, number 2 houses the $20.30 million making sequel to the 2012 animated comedy Hotel Transylvania. Adam Sandler returns as Dracula, whose hotel and resort for monsters is continuing to do well after the events of the last film. However, when he learns his half-vampire, half-human grandson is showing no signs of being a vampire, he must hurry to bring out the inner monster before soon-to-be visiting father, Vlad, thinks he's letting humans into the hotel. And finally, the number 1 box office hit of the weekend comes from the legendary director of works like Alien, Blade Runner, and more recently Prometheus, Ridley Scott. His newest work, The Martian, which took $37 million this weekend, goes back into space. The film stars Matt Damon as astronaut Matt Watney, who is presumed dead and left behind by the crew after a nasty storm takes place on their mission on Mars. Alive but stranded on Mars with few supplies, Mark is forced to gather his knowledge and wits to find a way to signal Earth that he's alive. Thank you for joining me in this weekend's Top 10 Box Office Hits. I've been Teo. Be sure to stay tuned for more movie news with Lindsay and Brandon after the break.
On October 23rd, Michael Fassbender will star in the new film titled Steve Jobs. The film is set backstage at 3 iconic product launches and ending in 1998 with the unveiling of the iMac. Steve Jobs takes us behind the scenes of the digital revolution to paint a portrait of the man at its epicenter. The film also stars Kate Winslet, Seth Rogen, and Jeff Daniels. Let's take a look at the trailer.
And so, in more exciting news developing in the world of the box office, the 1985 American animated television series, Jem, reboots as a new Hollywood film. Directed by John M. Koo, Jem and the Holograms follows a small girl and how she catapults as an underground video sensation to global superstar. She and her 3 sisters begin a journey of discovery that some talents are too special to keep hidden. Other stars in this feature include Molly Ringwald, Ryan Guzman, and Haley Kiyoko. Here's a look at the trailer. Jem needs to decide what's more important to her, her music career with her sister, the one she loves the most, or leave them in the dust and run the show on her own. After she discovers her father's intentions from when she was a child, she'll be able to make the best decision.
The last movie on our list is the 5th addition to the Paranormal Activity series, Paranormal Activity: The Ghost Dimension. This time, director Gregory Plockton presents a new dark twist. A family must protect their daughter from an evil entity with a sinister plan while using a special camera that can see these dark spirits. The film stars Chris J. Murray, Britt Shaw, Ivy George, Dan Grill. Let's take a look at the Dark Trails trailer. Can Ryan, Emily, and Mike save Layla from these dark spirits? Find out this Friday when the flick hits theaters.
How many Paranormal Activity movies have there been?
Have there been like 4, and this is like the 5th one, the 6th one? That's crazy. I feel like enough's enough. Like, you look at like really long franchises and they're so successful and people just want more, but I feel like this movie, people are like, okay, stop. But I feel like because they released it around Halloween, like, they're going to be more like, it's just a really clever scheme. Like, people are wanting to go see it to make the like sound like it's gonna be better than the others, but really everyone, I feel like they put less and less effort in, and it's just like overdone by now.
Yeah. Found footage is, after the success of Paranormal Activity and even farther back into the 90s, the Blair Witch Project, it's been something that's, it fizzed out eventually after Blair Witch, but now Paranormal Activity resurgent, and now it's everywhere with so many different movies, but they all stick specifically to the horror genre. And I think there's much more potential to, with that kind of genre, just to spread it out everywhere. But yes, you're right. Even if it is, it's kind of like the new Saw. They put out one around every Halloween, and just keep seeing how many they can do until things start to pad out. I mean, so far I guess if it's up to 6, it hasn't gone quite as long as Saw has yet.
There's only so many body parts you can mutilate, right? And then there's only so many things that can explode on camera. So it's like, okay, with horror, when you get past like 4, that would be enough, like in my case. But I think people are just like, I never even heard of people really liking the first couple that came out. It wasn't really known to be that scary. It was just like they relied so much on the found footage to make like a scary movie that they didn't really think about how they would write it almost. But like you said, I think that there is a lot of good found footage movies, and I think that concept is really, really cool. Like, even they had a parody of a haunted house, and it's still a comedy genre, which is still like horror comedy. But I think them taking a stab at Paranormal Activity is really hilarious because it really is what it feels like after you probably watched like more than one.
Yeah. And I mean, when I talk to people about the first one, it's mostly they would bring up that there's this big jump scare at the end that's really memorable. And when I hear the word jump scare, that's what normally turns me off of most horror films, because I normally like something that doesn't need to jump out at you to be scary, something that can just be in the room. I like more subtle horror, like, for example, you'll like be standing in the room and you'll hear this sound of like wings flapping, but you can never find out where exactly that sound is coming from. It's just there, or just something like a character just standing in the background that's just odd, but nobody notices it. But to be fair, I mean, it's always been a trope of the horror genre. I mean, even some of the best films that people talk up about, like Nightmare on Elm Street, that had a more atmospheric kind of horror, still had jump scares. I mean, it's just something that's always going to be part of the genre. It just needs to be executed well. You really need to not be knowing it's coming, but at the same time, you don't want to overdo it on the gore and violence like a lot of horror movies, because you just want people to have fun too.
It just feels like every like kind of new horror movie you sit in a movie theater and you watch, they rely on jump scares a lot. And that's like all they kind of use to like make you scared. And I always feel like I do see it coming though. Like you hear the music, you hear people walking toward the closet, you know it's coming, but it definitely needed to be a good horror franchise. You need to rely more on other things, definitely. Do you like any like other genres of like found footage?
Yes. Well, I say that. I've only seen one other film that's really stepped outside, which I guess proves our point a little more. But Chronicle is a superhero found footage movie that follows like 3 friends that are passing around this camera, and you get to see like inside their lives as things are all going down. And the movie then does this interesting thing at the end, where where all the big climax is going on, they're switching to cameras, not just the cameras they're holding, but cameras all throughout the city just to follow the action scene. Which, I mean, yeah, may conflict with how the movie was earlier on, but it's a neat twist on it that, it will be like in like a building, and then it will be down on the street, someone like filming with their cell phone camera, and you get these different progressions of quality and frame rate. I think that's a really interesting idea.
I think that is pretty cool. I'm excited to see that one, not so much Paranormal Activity. Well, it looks like that's all the time we have this week.
Tune in next week for your favorites in movies, television, and streaming services. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Lindsay. We'll see you next week.